I'm Female V, and you're watching Sky Captain 5.
We're back in Cyberpunk 2077, taking a look at the 2.1 update, which is supposed to be the final update to the game. Be sure to like the video, subscribing is great as well. So we had assumed that the updates for Cyberpunk were going to be wrapped up with the 2.0 update, but surprise, surprise, they came in and gave us a final big quality of life upgrade to the experience, which adds a number of really cool features and improvements just for the realism and the scope of the experience. So let's take a look at the video options. So under settings, you go to video, we have performance, and we have the ray tracing mode. So ray tracing mode is a dynamic 4K resolution at 30 FPS. There's HDR support for both options. Now this has ray traced shadows applied to it, but with the lower frame rate, and while you do get a little bit of a higher level of fidelity, I would personally recommend playing with the performance option, which is a dynamic 1800p at 60 FPS. And honestly, it looks really great. It runs fairly well. This update did help a little bit more with performance, but there's still some areas here or there where there might be a drop or two, but for the most part, it's smooth, it's well running, it's a game that has a lively experience and crowd, and yeah, Cyberpunk has really come together at this point in time, and it's sort of exciting, as that means we're finally seeing them move on from this project onto other things. Now, they did release recently the Phantom Liberty expansion. We may talk a little bit about that later on, but I do have a separate review that really dives deep into what that has to offer, alongside a number of interviews with those behind the actual game's voice performances. So you might find those interesting as well. So let's talk a bit about the features that they added for this final update. One of those being the ability for you to sit on the actual metro, or use them as fast travel points. Now, I will say, I personally don't quite understand the desire to have a metro system in the game. I know for some people it was that big thing where it's like they didn't deliver on their promises because you wanted to ride the metro. This just takes me back to like 10 years ago when I was in school having to ride public transit, which is not a great experience, so I don't like. It's cool in the game, you get to see some vistas and stuff like this, but public transit, really, that's what people wanted. Like, it's cool, it's got lots of stuff going on, but I don't get what the craze was for this. I really don't. Yeah, there's stuff that happens and you get to ride public transit, so that's a feature now. So if you wanted that, exciting. We also have some improvements to motorcycles. So if you want to ride around on bikes, they've now done a host of improvements in regards to how they handle and just the experience while being on a bike. So that includes the ability for you now to do like wheelies and all kinds of other bike tricks and have different senses of like gravity to it in regards to you driving about when on a motorcycle. And that includes better animations for like cutting or using melee swords and weapons when you are on a bicycle. So that's pretty cool if you're into that sort of offering within Cyberpunk. They've also added this neat little feature where you can now actually go and do like dates with your close loved ones. Usually that was at the top of the list there with Judy. And yeah, you can do all this sort of stuff, and you can actually go and like cuddle in that, and they've added dating to the game. So that's kind of a nice touch. It was interesting when I gave that a bit of a whirl. Another thing they've added is there's now a level of aggression from those around you. So you'll notice if you mess with certain gangs or you cause problems, now you will get harassed on the streets by driving at very tough gangster enemies. It's a little annoying, I don't know if there's really anything you can do in regards to adjusting that. But yeah, it is a little annoying because you'll just sort of be chilling, driving along, getting somewhere, and then there'll be groups of vans coming after you, shooting at you, and that might be intriguing to some. I thought it was a bit odd that that was really something that was going on in this one. Another option that they have changed that might be of help to you is I noticed when I started playing this update that there was like a weird like stick drift type situation going on. So the way to change that or fix it, and this is CD Projekt Red recommended, and I say so as well, change your inner dead zone to 0.35 for the controller, which is the recommended level of movement, and that will be the natural default level of interactivity in regards to just how your controller kind of, how you look around. Otherwise, it's going to have, if there's like, I guess, a bit of a bug or a weird thing that doesn't quite reset, your controller will have like this odd stick drifting type feel to it. So I thought that was kind of important to go over and leave message and note of. So Cyberpunk 2077 is an experience that is filled to the brim with activities and excitement and ways to battle and take out enemies. It's really, really interesting. Like, there is a lot to love about this game. It's really genuinely intriguing. If you've been waiting, this is supposed to be the final update to your Cyberpunk experience. So there's really no point waiting further, because you get an absolutely massive experience in a city that is full of life activities and things that you can do. Tons of missions, main quests, and it's a shooter game at its heart, but it really is a role-playing experience where you are choosing your V and making an impact in the world of Night City. It's expansive, it's exciting, it's filled with intrigue and twists and turns, and it's just a really, really great game to play. It's fully immersive, it is filled to the brim with activities and extra side things, and just, it goes wild. And then you can go even further with that experience if you go into the whole Phantom Liberty expansion that tells a story that adds to your overall experience or kind of builds into it. So either it's something where I finished the main game, cool, I want more, or I haven't played the game yet, let's extend the experience in like kind of the middle towards, I guess, end to some degree. And that's what Phantom Liberty does, is it builds an already incredible package. It's something I highly, highly recommend getting, just so that you have a complete version of Cyberpunk in action. So part of the most recent update, which I kind of assumed was going to be the last review, as to say, for Cyberpunk, that one did add the ability for dynamic police combat situations. So the police will now chase you. It'll be kind of like Grand Theft Auto, some would say, in regards to basically, having to deal with escalating police presences as you drive away and try to escape and evade them. So the game did crash there. It does look like there were some more technical issues introduced with this last update, and I've had a very, very difficult time actually recording this review. Believe it or not, there's been a lot of troubles behind this one. So you do have dynamic combat in vehicles, which, like with the Metro system, was something that a lot of people did ask for, did request. There's sort of nice quality of life improvements that do add to the scope and the reactiveness of the world. I was always kind of a little, kind of indifferent to sort of things like that, but I do understand why folks wanted them, and now both of those are in the game. I'm not sure what else people would be really looking for in regards to additional other features or anything like that. It does seem like we do have the full scoped, full setup Cyberpunk 2077 experience. Now, the phrase I always like to use was, the Cyberpunk world of my dreams. It really does capture that full expansive feeling of a world where it is to some degree messed up, some degree dystopian, a meld of, human technology mixed with regular people having all these sorts of problems. And you find yourself in the middle of it as this character that has some trouble going on. Like, you kind of pick your, sort of starting situation, and you go from there, and you craft and create your character using a variety of unique abilities. You've got these really in-depth stats that you can choose between that improve your character in a number of different ways. And you improve that skill progression over time as you use stuff. They completely redid this for the Big Phantom Liberty update. Your character has a huge level of cyberware improvements that you can do in order to have even more abilities, like jumping really high, moving really fast, hacking stuff. You have a wide range of inventory options, tons of different guns, weapons, tools, stats, items you can hold, things you can do, stuff you can interact with. It is a massive world filled with activities, and it only got larger with that Phantom Liberty expansion. Where, again, going back to that, I do highly recommend having it, as it adds this great extra story with excellent characters, but it also just really elevates your experience and has more for you to do, and it makes something that's already incredibly extensive and long even longer and even better. This is a game where I've played through it multiple times, male V, female V. I think I've done it like 3 times or something like that, or 2.5, something like that. And I spent on this like one save. I'm up to, if it loads, I'm up to 70 hours of gameplay, which it's probably not loading due to the fact that there's all this stuff going on. There's also cross-progression saves that you can pull from. That's kind of annoying that it's not showing it, but I do have over 70 hours on this particular character, and it is something that you can just really play a lot of and experience just a ton of things. Like, you really do get to know these characters, you get to know this world. They've got so many cool elements to it, so many distinct experiences and places to visit, things to interact with, enemies to deal with, enemies that you will have to come up with creative ways to tackle, elements of choice and surprise and twists and turns along the way. I think that there's not too many complaints that one could have about an experience this expansive. Like, this place is just huge, and it's filled to the brim with so many interactive elements, so many vehicles and guns and weapons and tools and ways to play and battle and just cause chaos. Like, you can drive around being a problem for the police. You can drive around dealing with the different gangs and scenarios that come. There's so many different quests. There's so many world activities you can take part in. And it's something that has changed so much to the point where if you're actually going in here and you're experiencing this, for the first time, you're going to have a wealth of activities and things for you to do to the degree that most people that played the first time didn't have and would be blown away by. It's not actually at the point where I'm kind of debating, almost restarting just so that I can experience this almost entirely new version of the game. Like, it really does feel as if I played through the story, the way that I would go about doing activities and everything has, completely changed, or it would be so different that it would feel like a fresh play, and that in itself is rather incredible. I always thought the game was pretty great. The foundation here was excellent. I played this on Google Stadia, of all things, firstly, which I'm sure down the road people will probably forget what Google Stadia even was, but, that's where I played it through, and I didn't have as many issues. And then eventually I got to check it out on the Series X, and, I played it on the Xbox One, where it was really, really rough, and it's just been really neat seeing every single update come out, and every single experience, change up this world in such exciting ways. Like, it really does feel full, expansive, exciting. You get so many different experiences that you can have. Now, from a story perspective, as I kind of mentioned, you kind of pick your perspective, you pick where you come from, and then you're out there exploring, doing the beats of the city, and things go wrong. You end up with this crazy buddy, Keanu Reeves, and he's like a figment in your mind, and you have to deal with that. And it's a neat dynamic seeing these characters, these two individuals, your V that you've chosen and crafted and created, and Keanu, who's Silverhand, in your head, seeing the two of them influencing what you're doing, what your goals are. These Delamain quests I hate, and they will not leave me alone. And they haven't since the first day this game came out. Just throwing that out there. So it is something that, yeah, you know what? It's had some issues. The traffic and stuff is a lot better than it used to be, and you know what? It may not necessarily be perfect. Wow, that is actually, it came right back after I turned that off. That is crazy. I literally can't escape the Delamain cabs. They find you. But I think in general, the way the game handles, whether you're in a vehicle or on foot, is way better. The way you interact with the quests, the narrative, battling with, alongside, or maybe even to some degree against that artifact, that Johnny, that Keanu Reeves in your head, it's so exciting. And then if you go further with the Phantom Liberty expansion, you get to meet new characters on top of Johnny. We've got Idris Elba in there as this really grizzled sort of agent, and we've got this mysterious new presence that is trying to maybe fix things for us so that we don't have to deal with this issue. And that goes beyond the full scope of our experience, because the real intensity is when things start going just wild and you are, in survival mode, trying to make it through the next day, trying to deal with the next situation, and battling along in this expansive, massive city that is just filled with so many exciting interactions, so many twists, so many turns. Seriously, from a narrative standpoint, if you've played it, you'll be like, wow, there's so much going on here. And it's just kind of amazing. It's a city you just kind of get like lost in, if that makes sense. It is one of the most immersive role-playing experiences I think we've had in gaming. And what's really exciting about that is the fact that it's a mature one. It doesn't hold back in any element. It goes full-blown excitement, full-blown maturity. It doesn't really restrict any element of play. There's full like adult segments, there's full graphic violence, there's full maturity. Nothing is held back. And I think that in itself is really magical, because there's so few gaming experiences that actually are willing to do that sort of thing. And I think that's kind of magical, that this one is able to provide such a, that's a weird vehicle, a seamless, exciting, quick, well-running world that you're able to explore and battle within and make those choices, do these crazy things, destroy enemies, and it's also visually impressive, like from a aesthetic standpoint, a technical standpoint, and all loads really, really fast too, going from like area to area. It's just crazy. Like, I always wanted a Cyberpunk world like this. I was always craving some sort of experience, that provided something of this scope, and I think they really did nail it. And yeah, you know what? It took a little bit long to get to the point where we are now, where this game is as crazy as it is. But if you are coming in as a first-time player, this is a must-play, can't-miss experience. It always was really, really great, but I think now the full scope of the project is absolutely stunning and more than well worth your time. You will be blown away by the crazy adventures you have, the high stakes, all of the wild action sequences, the wild and exciting music, and just everything crazy along the way that happens as you just try to survive, flourish, and make your mark in this huge, seemingly never-ending experience. And I can't wait to see us go a little bit further when we do get a sequel down the road. And I'm assuming this probably won't be the last time we dive into Cyberpunk. You know, this release, I'm sure there'll be some sort of refresh or some sort of next-gen experience, but it's one I can't wait to revisit and one I can never quite get enough of playing because it's so great.